guys? Welcome to another episode of Elevated and Chill. It's your boy CJ on the scene, tapping back in with you guys for another session. You already know what we came here to do. We came here to laugh, came here to chill, but most importantly, we always are here to catch a vibe. And like we always start off the show, let's start off with a vibe check. Home team, a little vibe check for me. I'm gonna say this: it was a normal week, neutral week to be exact. Nothing high, nothing low, just kind of like in the middle. And I think that's like the ebbs and flow of what's going on here. Really and truly, went to dance, was hitting the gym, went to work. Work was okay. Uh had therapy. That's always, kind of a good way to get the week going. And had a sluggish workout Wednesday, but bounced back on Thursday with chest and tries and also hit cardio. Also, dance was great. Had a great dance session. Working on my skill set and my moves. Was amazing. So had a great session at dance. And yeah, this week was a neutral week. For myself, but obviously I want to know what you guys how was it for you guys? So drop it in the comments. Let me know your mental check, your vibe check, any highs and lows for the week. Again, drop it in the comments. Before we kick off the episode or session, we like to go both ways. But I just want to say shout out to all you guys, home team, for donating and showing support for the MS walk. It was an amazing time. I know we talked about it last week, but I was just, kind of in a gratitude state. But definitely wanted to shout you guys out for supporting. Like I said, anything help, whether you donated, whether you showed love on social media, just getting that extra exposure could help find a cure. So we're extra humbled and just just humbled and feeling blessed to again having being able to continue doing this walk. And you know got this cool water bottle, Rain. It's great water. It's amazing water, actually. So you know Vibe check is sponsored by Rain for this episode. But yeah, Uh, let's get right into it, home team. With the NBA playoffs, the NBA playoffs are cooking. Uh, we're kind of wrapping up round one of the playoffs so far, so bear with me here. Just gonna kind of go through the different series, give high level, top level synopsis of the series. But let's start off with the Thunder and the Suns. We kind of knew that the Thunder were gonna win. But you know, obviously they swept the Suns. But I do want to say this, and I think it's very important to call out the fact of the matter is that when you really analyze when you really think about the Thunder and how they've gotten to where they're at, you know, Shea is an amazing talent, and I think amazing talent, 100%. But I think game two or game three, he had a call that was a blocking foul, but on the opposite end, Devin Booker had the same call, and it had the same play, and they called it a offensive charge or a charge, offensive foul, same thing. But you know, it's kind of like what I've been saying. Shea is a free throw merchant. He goes to the free throw a lot, and there's nothing wrong with going to the free throw line. But when you start seeing and dissecting these plays, and Shea is doing the intentional underarm play, or he's doing all these other plays that gets him to the line, it's not ethical hoops, and that's my biggest issue. But other than that, Shea is an amazing talent. The Thunder are going to the semifinals, so just to kind of like again, top line, they completed the full game sweep. Shea had 31 points. He was 9 for 11 for the on the from the free throw line. Didn't get to the free throw line as much, but overall in the season, he has been. Chet had 12. He had 8 assists. Devin Booker kind of only had 24 points, but he shot 50% from the field. Pretty good. Um, but yeah, like we already knew that the Thunder were gonna win this, so this was kind of like a no brainer if you really think about it. So we're just kind of waiting on who's gonna face the Thunder. And look, it's between the Thunder and I'm sorry, it's between the Rockets and the Lakers. And listen, man, look, man, the Thunder, the Lakers were up 3-0. The Rockets have come back. Now it's 3-2. Obviously big games from Sangoon, and just generally speaking, the Rockets as a whole. But this is what happens in a game 7 series. You know, the first two games it was Kennard and Smart, but now the Rockets found their groove. They really found their groove, and now they're literally rocking and rolling. No pun intended, home team. Um, but yeah, I mean, the Lakers got to finish this in 6. They just got to. They really can't allow this to go to game 7. And just you know for stat purposes, you know, it's really been a crazy situation because in this past game that they just had, you know, LeBron is doing LeBron things. Aiden had a good game, but when you really start to analyze it, you know, the from a team perspective, you know, the Lakers shot 26 from the percent from the free throw from the 3-point line. The biggest thing is that they had 15 turnovers. You know what I mean? So the thing and really and truly, really and truly didn't really like kind of do anything on the defensive end, kind of. But you know, that's really what it is. It's really like the Rockets. It really boils down home team to the fact that the Rockets were able to um get in their groove and able to, all right, this is how they're playing, and now we need a match up to how they're playing. So again, it just when you're in a 7 game series, you kind of adjust to make adjustments and stuff like that, and that's what the Rockets is doing. So listen, they the Lakers need to finish this off. Like they need to finish this off 100%. They need to finish this off. So hopefully they do. I hope they do, and I hope they face the Thunder in games in the next round. AR is back, so that's a good thing. But also we're waiting for Luca, and hopefully Luca come back and do some damage. So, this is gonna be this is a must win for the Lakers. So again, I'm rocking with the Lakers on this. They gotta win this. Um, the Thunder. I'm sorry. I keep saying the Thunder. I keep saying the Thunder, and I don't know why. Home team. I keep saying the Thunder, but not the Thunder. The Nuggets and the Timberwolves. This was a battle, and home team. I said this from the beginning. This was gonna be a battle. This was gonna be a dogfight, and the Nuggets needed to come in here and not take the Timberwolves for granted. And I'm not saying they took them for granted, but when you really think about it, Jokic didn't have a good game. Oh, I'm sorry. Time out. Pause. Flagrant on me. Oh, flagrant. Oh, red flag, everything. Pause. Let's drive it back. Rewind time. Rewinding time a little bit. Jokic is gonna be Jokic. But it really boils down to Jamal Murray, and who was an all-star this year, but really didn't contribute much. And this is the thing. Like when you are a Jamal Murray type player, you are consistently not producing in the playoffs. The second best player on that team, and you are not producing in the playoffs. And again, this series should have been over with Anthony Edwards going down, but obviously it wasn't because who was the game riser was Jaden McDaniels. Jaden McDaniels had 32 points in a closeout game. And again, the playoffs are defined by role players. Simple as that. And not in the big moments where, like, oh, wow, like, you obviously need a star player for that. But in a 7 game stretch, you're going to have these guys that are going to pick up the slack. And Jaden McDaniels picked up the slack. Now, I wouldn't consider he is a role player because Anthony Edwards is the star player in that on that team. Jaden McDaniels is a supporting cast. So like he is moving around and trying to get things going, and he did that. 32 points, and he's been playing consistently great in this series, and that's why the Timberwolves were able to win. And look, I'm a big Rudy Gobert hater, to be honest. Home team, throw me out there. I'm a big Rudy Gobert hater, but I'm going to give him his flowers today on this podcast. And I also gave it to him previously as well. He did a great job on Jokic, made him hustle, made him work. You're not going to stop Jokic from getting his, but what you are going to do is make it difficult for him. And that's what Rudy Gobert did. And that was another contributing fact to him winning. I mean, not him winning, but the Timberwolves winning. He showed why he is the 4 time defensive player of the year. It showed in this series. So the Timberwolves won. And really and truly, it's more so like, what exactly is next for the Nuggets? Do they blow up the team? And I think they blow up the team. They got to blow up the team because when you got a guy like Jamal Murray, what is he doing? Aaron Gordon can't stay healthy. You know what I'm saying? You need help with Jokic. Jokic is going to be Jokic, but you need help around Jokic. And obviously, they don't have that. So, what is next for the Nuggets? And I think they blow up the team. Blow up the team. I feel like you could still get capital for Jamal Murray and see what you could do. Obviously, like trade some picks around. I don't know, but you guys gotta go into reconstruction mode because it's kind of similar to the whole Giannis situation where Giannis, the Bucks were competing, and now look at them. Where are the Bucks now? Now only one chip out of that. So next series, Spurs and Trailblazers. I mean, Wimby came back, and Wimby, you just listen. Wimby's he affects the series. You can't. He is a game changer in the series, and him coming back, obviously, the Spurs won. This was a no brainer for me. I've been saying this for a while. The Spurs got Stephon Castle. They got Harper, Keldon Johnson. They got De'Aaron Fox. They got Wimby. They got a young core led by Wimby. The Spurs are. I'm not gonna say they're not even a dark horse anymore. They're more so a legitimate contender for the championship. The Spurs are gonna give the Thunder probably a run for their money. So look, Spurs, Thunder, Spurs, Trailblazers. Spurs got the edge. Obviously, Wimby doing Wimby things. Getting blocks. But I do want to say this. Denny Avicii a veggie, home team. Correct me in the comments. You know what I mean? I sometimes have a lot of I struggle trying to pronounce these names. So obviously, home team, help me out here. Drop it in the comments. But yeah, I mean, it just shows they got a reliable core. They got Shaden Sharp, so they got a lot of key pieces, and they need to keep working with. So this is a young team. Obviously, getting booted from the playoffs is never a positive thing, but there's never a there's never a loss. It's always a lesson. So you learn from what the series, and you kind of move on. So it's gonna be the Spurs versus the Timberwolves. So that's like the more concrete series that we got going on right now. So going into the Eastern Conference, and listen, the Eastern Conference is like battling for battle. We thought we thought the Pistons were in the and were shitting the bed, but obviously Orlando is up 3-2, but the Pistons are right. The Cade is doing his thing, but we thought this is gonna probably be an upset. I just think the Pistons aren't playing how they were playing during the season, which leads to, are they a playoff fraud? You know what I mean? Are they, were they just a NBA team? But I really do think it was more so the fact that they lost Cade, they lost that chemistry, and now getting into the playoffs, it's like that rhythm isn't there. But listen, overall the Magic look like they might do this. They got a great team: Desmond Bain, Paolo Banchero, they got Suggs, so and they got Franz. So I think they may pull this out, but this is a dogfight, and the Pistons need to be coming here to play. They need to show why they are the number one seed. K needs to show why he was a runner up for the MVP. That's as simple as how it goes. Listen, we're gonna get into the next series, and I'm gonna be very blunt here. Um, the series Cavs versus Raptors. Listen, James Harden is averaging 18 points. What has been a story about James Harden? He notoriously goes MIA in the playoffs, and I'm to the point I don't even want to hear the comparisons between him and D Wade, because for me personally, when you talk about just better player, okay, we could ship bare bones. All right. Because what is the narrative around that? Because every time it's LeBron versus Jordan, the ring conversation pops up. Playoff, all these things pop up. But when we're talking about James Harden and D Wade, we're looking at, all right, stats. Oh, he's doing this better. He's doing this better, James Harden. And better player, I mean, yeah, I mean, James Harden did a fucking lot for the NBA. He literally had a long during in that Steph Curry, he revolutionized the step back. And you gotta give credit to where credit is due. But when you're a when you're at a level like a James Harden and you notoriously go MIA in the playoffs, we have a problem. Dwayne, listen, man, Dwayne Wade's a three-time champion, and you know what? At the end of the day, he had one of the greatest the playoff runs in playoff history when he in the 2006 playoffs. James Harden, where's he at, bro? Like James Harden notoriously goes MIA in the playoffs. So I don't know. Like I said, this is another dogfight too, and it seems like that's how the East has been. And going to the next series, the Knicks and the Hawks. Then listen, the Knicks and the Hawks. It's like they. I, this shocked me, and not shocked me that the Knicks won. So I had the Knicks winning, but this shocked me on how bad they blew out the Hawks in Game 6, judging by the fact they fumbled game 1 and 2. I feel like this game was like, I got a lot to prove here. And they did. For sure. They won by 50 points, and that's kind of crazy. They were up 60-20, I believe, going into the second quarter. That's everything was working for them. But see, this is the thing with the Knicks though. It just shows when the Knicks are doing things properly, they're shifting the ball around and doing all these making great basketball decisions. This is what happens. And I'm not saying it's gonna be like this all the time, but they're capable of going far when they're making the right basketball choices. Simple as that. And when you got players like OG and Jalen and Cat, Mikal doing what I don't know what the fuck Mikal was doing, but when you got players, when you got your three best players working and doing what they got to do, you get the result. This is the result. And like I always say, when the foot is on the pedal, you keep it on the pedal. You don't let go. And that's what the Knicks did in this final closeout game. So shout out to the Knicks. Knicks tape. Orange for the Knicks. And multiple sclerosis. And the Celtics, listen, this is gonna be a battle, man. This is like Boston versus Philly. This is like, this is ridiculous. But yeah, dogfight here as well. Joel could come back and just give niggas buckets. That's just really what it comes down to. Um, yeah, this is gonna be uh, a dogfight. So obviously, we'll see what comes out of this series. Honestly, I really don't have much to say on it because the Celtics looked like they were gonna do their work and they didn't. So, home team, let me know what you guys think. Who do you guys who do you guys what's the series you guys been tapping into? Drop it in the comments. Who you got going to the next round? I don't think I said this, but I'm probably gonna go with the Celtics. I think they get it done. Hopefully, I got the Cavs. I'm gonna go with the Magic. I'm not gonna lie to you, judging by the series, and I'm still rocking with the Lakers. The Lakers got to close it out, so I think it's gonna be the Thunder, Lakers, Timberwolves, Spurs, Magic, Cavs, Knicks, Celtics, and that's gonna be a series that we all need to watch in for. So again, home team, drop it in the comments. Keep the conversation, the playoff conversation going, and yeah, hopefully it continues the rhythm of being great for TV. Overall, I think these playoffs have been amazing. Little minor hiccups with the refs, but it is what it is. But speaking about great for TV, the greatest probably of sporting event and hit in the world is happening. The FIFA World Cup. Uh, at home team. I'm not really a soccer guy, but I will humbly admit that soccer is the world's most popular sport. That's why Messi is probably up there for one of being the world's most famous athletes because that's that's the level soccer is at. Everybody plays soccer. Go to every country, they're playing soccer. They're not playing football. I think basketball is slowly getting there, but it's soccer. It's 100% soccer. They have multiple leagues, world. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane. But the FIFA World Cup definitely did make changes to their tournament the tournament adding in like kind of like smaller nations and stuff like that, but they also it's kind of they added 48 teams. It's a 8 game team expansion. So with that being said, does I guess a question for me to you guys is does expansion help smaller nations grow or just create early blowouts? And for me, um it's for you guys to answer the home team, but I guess my answer to that question would be, you know, I think the expansion will help smaller nations just get the recognition to be in the World Cup. I believe like when you, it's like kind of like with the NCAA tournament when like you got like a, let's say like a TCU going to the Elite Eight. That's amazing. So I think kind of like the similar concept here, where like when you have a lower a smaller nation, and they might go far. You never know. So them going far, it just, again, it gives that, like, all right, that chip on your shoulder. And I think it's just, it'll help. It won't create early blowouts. And if it is a blowout, I just think it'll create more pride for the World Cup and more viewership to the World Cup. Judging by the fact they will have these smaller nations in the World Cup. Um Adjacent to that, having a lot of nations, does that lead into, a lot of players having fatigue and stuff like that, because now the tournament gets a little bit longer because the addition, the expansion. And yeah, I mean, players could risk getting injured because of the fact of how long they're playing. It's kind of like the Olympics. When you guys, like, for basketball, or all these sports, these athletes, like for basketball specifically, they're going from October all the way till June. If they make, like, for example, 2012, Braun went from October to June, and it went right into the Olympics all the way into August. So basically, playing a whole year nonstop of basketball, and Bron keeps his body in shape and shit like that. But at the end of the day, like, that's a lot of wear and tear on your body. You know what I mean? And some athletes, they need that rest and stuff like that. So I mean, yeah, it could lead to player fatigue and also a lot of tension with a lot of clubs, because you know now they got their star athletes, their star players playing for their home teams, and that's fine and all. But now when you get back, they're the ones giving they're cutting a check for them. So it really comes down to the business aspect of it. And it's kind of like when Kawhi was, supposedly, he was injured, but he was gonna play for the Olympic team, and it's just like, you can't do that. You know what I mean? Like, who are you? We would love Kawhi to be on the team, but at the end of the day, it really boils down to, like, you're injured, and who's supporting you financially is your team. You know what I mean? So, I could really see how the expansion, and longer games and longer, like, added games and stuff like that could lead into fatigue and injuries, but also tensions with the clubs. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like it's a two-pronged thing. You know what I mean? There's always pros about doing things and cons. So the pro is more exposure to smaller nations, but the con might be, you know, tension with clubs and stuff like that. Like, maybe clubs might write in their contract, like, listen, my star players can't do that. Then you have a whole nother battle. So, I'm interested to see how this kind of like works out, and how, generally speaking, the World Cup committee or whoever does this is gonna kind of like thread the needle here, so to speak. But alongside that, I mean, it's here in the US, and that's a lifetime opportunity. If anybody's going home team, if you can get out there. Again, like I said, it's a lifetime opportunity, and I don't think many people might not get that opportunity to go. So if you got a chance to go out there and get things going. But I think, judging by the fact that the World Cup is in America, that I think it would enhance more people to kind of gain more exposure to people in the US to play soccer. I don't think, I think soccer, it's a relevant thing. Soccer isn't like, oh, what is that? It's not like it's like a cricket. So but soccer is here in the US, but it's just not as popular as it is worldwide. But so I think the World Cup coming here will add that additional exposure. And maybe you got a person like, in, I don't know, like, let's say Portland, and they don't have access to the streaming and all these streaming access to um these games and stuff like that. But maybe they're kind of tapped into the MLS, and maybe you got that one fan that, all right, like, wow, like Messi's coming or Ronaldo's coming. They I'm not saying they're coming, but like, like Mbappe and all, like, generally speaking, like the camaraderie and stuff like that, and that comes with the World Cup. It's coming to the US, so I gotta tap in more. And honestly, I'm one of them. Growing up in New York, like, the predominant sports were basketball, football, and baseball. You know what I mean? So for me, getting into soccer, I started playing soccer, and I started getting more into soccer when I was younger, and I went to sleepaway camp, and was playing soccer there, and that's where I caught a lot of interest in soccer, but I never really kept up with it. And then my college friends are really big into soccer, so they kind of keep me up to date and stuff like that. So for I'm I'm said people in the US that, like, the World Cup coming will gain more exposure to myself and maybe a lot of other US citizens here. So yeah, I'm personally excited for it because it's a chance for me to kind of get into something new, but also just be immersed in that passion. And because I went to a soccer game. I went to the Bayern Munich game when I went to Germany, and that was amazing because, like, it's just it's rocking. Like, the stadium is rocking, and like you have a lot of just fandom, and the fans are so passionate, and kind of coinciding with the smaller nations getting into the World Cup. You have like these small teams, and they're so enthusiastic and passionate, and it's just amazing to see it. And that for me was like a great experience. So, home team, like, if you guys have the chance to see a game in Europe, go for it. 100%. 10 out of 10 experience. Um, but yeah, home team, drop it in the comments. Who you going for in the World Cup? What are your thoughts on the World Cup? It being in the US. Drop it in the comments. Keep the World Cup conversation going as well. Uh, would love to hear your feedback. Yeah, and I don't really know who I'm going for. I just hope it's a good one. Um, you know, it's kind of like it's kind of like I don't got a team. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of like a free agent right now. So I'm like, sir, um, I'm like scouting, but I'll tap into the games and just kind of like take it from there. But moving on and segueing into our mid segment of chilling ass. You guys really be sending in great questions. And home team, shout out you guys. These are amazing questions. It's like it's kind of crazy to see how much the segment has grown. So we were starting off with just one question. Now we got three questions and stuff like that. It's amazing. And it's all shout out to you guys. So shout out to the home team. But chilling that segment. First question is, what's been the biggest factor shaping the NBA playoffs so far? Is it superstar consistency, team depth, coaching adjustments, or playoff experiences? Judging by these playoffs, is team depth. 100%. Obviously, you got the outliers of, like, the Thunder, but when you got Wimby going down, the Spurs still were able to close out this series. When the biggest one is with the Timberwolves. I mean, Jaden McDaniels, doing his thing and dropping 32 points in a closeout game. I just and team depth is, even going all the way further back when Robert Ory, that game against the Kings, and that he hit, Vlad Divac hit the ball out, and Robert Ory's right there. Derek Fisher against the Spurs. Um, it's really about team depth, and obviously a coach. Obviously the surrounding factors are in there as well, but at the end of the day, it really just boils down to team depth. Obviously you need a superstar. You need a guy like LeBron, MJ, Kobe, Magic, Bird, Shaq. You need these guys, KD. You need Steph. You need these guys. But at the end of the day, like team depth is really what it comes down to. Andre Iguodala was the most Finals MVP in 2015. So I think it's just more so like team depth in any playoff series that you're going through. You need a great team in order to make it to the chip and win. So team depth, 100% home team. Let me know, guys. Let me know what you guys think. What is the biggest factor in the NBA playoffs? In the NBA playoffs, is it superstar consistency? Is it team depth? Is it coaching adjustments? Or is it overall just playoff experience? Yeah, let me know. Drop it in the comments. Uh, Second question is the World Cup still the biggest sporting event in the world, or just the biggest brand? No, by far, soccer is the most popular sport in the world. Therefore, the World Cup is the biggest sporting event in the world, like 100%. It's not even the Super Bowl doesn't even compare to the World Cup. So absolutely the World Cup. This is it's still the biggest sporting event. Nothing is gonna replace it unless I think basketball maybe has a shot, home team, a shot, not, but yeah, it's the World Cup by far. It's not even close. Um, Second question, which when I read this was an interesting question. In an era of streaming overload, are live sports the only content that still justifies paying for subscriptions? And I think so. I think a lot of I think because we get live sports on a lot of these different streaming networks, that a lot of us who are sports fans are more apt to buy the streaming app because they want to watch certain games. It's not necessarily for the content, because a lot of people are, a lot of the streaming, they have their own content and stuff like that. But I really think it's the sports that get people attracted. Like, for example, now that the World Cup is coming around, like I don't really tune into football, but a lot of people are buying football because they watch soccer, or and now the World Cup, like football is gonna have a lot of that content in there. So yeah, like I think a lot of like live, this Peacock with the Olympics, you know what I mean? Like stuff like that. Like I think live sports, the playoffs, you're more apt to get these subscriptions for these streaming networks because of live sports. So yeah, I 100% would say people are more apt to get because they want to see the sports. You know what I mean? It's just the the overall landscape of how streaming's going. But that can lead to a lot of like streaming fatigue. Is there too many platforms? Is there, you know, there's no scarcity in content. Like I remember when you had to pay for a lot of the pay-per-views, or HBO Max and all these things because on cable, you know what I mean? So it created that like scarcity and stuff like that. I just think like now everybody, there's a streaming platform everywhere, and now there's no like dire like, oh, this movie's coming out, like I gotta watch it, I gotta get so and so, you know what I mean? I gotta add this to my package, you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of shows come out on certain like platforms, and it's just like, is it really like a must watch? You know what I'm saying? Like there's no like I gotta watch this because there's just a lot. There's Tubi, there's Fubo, there's Paramount Plus, there's Peacock, there's Netflix, there's Hulu, there's just a lot of streaming platforms, and it's getting saturated, but at the same time, like, a lot of these streaming platforms are doing like their own thing. So a lot of consumers, all right, they're watching certain like platforms and just sticking with it. And what if it's on that platform, they're gonna watch it. Obviously, like if a if a the the rare occasion is if like a show like Game of Thrones, like House of Dragons is coming back. House of Dragon comes back, it's like, all right, people now are gonna get HBO Max because of the fact they want to watch House of Dragons. But when you have like these individual like content shows that are on designated, platforms, it doesn't have like that must watch content. You know what I'm saying? Um, but a lot of people, including myself, like to binge, and but do you like like the boys and Euphoria? I gotta watch those are shows that I'm tapped into, but I would much rather watch a whole season, binging it, rather than going through with the weekly drops. You just gotta stay away from the social media because people are gonna give out the spoilers. But what exactly keeps people engaged? And I think the preference is it really depends on what you are, what's your watching habits as a consumer. Like I said, for me, I like to binge things. I like to see a full season. You know what I mean? Like I don't I although like sometimes when you're kept on the edge, you're kind of wondering what's gonna happen next. But for me, I like to have like that whole season in hand and just watching it, and then it's like, oh damn, like this happened, this happened, this happened. I think when you're watching weekly, it gives you that excitement on what's gonna happen the following week. But at the same time, like if you're somebody like me who naturally likes to binge things, like for like Game of Thrones was crazy because like I binge season 1 through 7. I binged the whole thing, so I really only needed to watch season 8, which that was like, damn, I gotta wait every week for the next episode to come out. But I like binging things. That's kind of like one of my, I guess, toxic traits or whatever is that I do like to binge things. But it really just ultimately just comes down to what is your habit. Like, do you like to binge, or do you like the consistency of waiting the next week to see what happens? It's really like a preference thing, to be honest. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just more so a preference. You know what I mean? And yeah, like like our streaming platforms coming into the bundle. I mean, like something like HBO Max, they got the Hulu and the Disney, and at one point it was Disney, ESPN, and Hulu. So you get like these packs, these bundles and stuff like that, and you know it's honestly just like it depends. Like I don't really have cable, so like it kind of like supplements my cable feed. You know what I'm saying? But some people older crowd will want cable because they want to watch the prime channels, the twos, the fives, the sevens, the fours, NBC, CBS, and stuff like that. So they want to watch these shows, the news and stuff like that. And that's something that you're probably not gonna get unless you have like a a extensive membership. You know what I mean? So like when it really comes down to it, again, like streaming services are becoming like what we would call back in the day as the cable bundles. The cable bundles came in with like packages. Like if you had this package, you could get this. If you had this package, you get like HBO Max, Stars. You get Stars, you get Cinemax, and all that stuff. Showtime. Um, and that's kind of how like the streaming platforms are coming about now. They're coming into, all right. They're going, what can we bundle with? Obviously, we see with HBO Max and Disney and Hulu, but what other streaming platforms are gonna start doing that now? So yeah, like they streaming is now the new way of watching TV. So yes, a lot of these streaming services are gonna be it's the new version of the cable bundles for sure. Um, yeah, home team, drop it in the comments. Too many platforms, not enough much to watch content. What do you guys think about that? Do you guys like to binge versus weekly drops? And what's your take on streaming services becoming the new cable bundles? Drop it in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. And yeah, approaching our last segment of the session, and as always, it's a pleasure. But this is sponsored by CoStar. CoStar, please. You know what you gotta do. Sign the contract, send it. And honestly, Rain, Coke, Crocs, New Balance. Listen, drop whatever contract you guys want to send, sponsorship. Let me know. We can work something out. But Elevated Advice is sponsored by CoStar. And this elevated advice is well, my elevated advice to you guys is the imprint you make on each other's bodies is worth everything. Um, and I think just like kind of like more so putting it into a uh a more metaphorical stance is like the imprint you make on somebody is very important. It's very important, like, you know, a lot of people go through life and they have different people that have made an impact on them. And, you don't know what you're doing might be very insightful or impactful to the next person or somebody, your contemporary. So that's why you always gotta like kind of be, like not feel, not feel like you gotta be perfect, but be a stand-up guy, as the times was, be a stand-up guy, you know what I mean, and be the person that, when you make a mistake, be accountable for it, and just kind of lead that life of being genuine and being you and being authentic, because the next person you're gonna make that impact on the next person, a contemporary or even on a person older than you. You might do something that might catch the appeal of an older person, like, oh damn, like, wow, like they're pushing me to be great. So you just never know who's watching. And like, home team, continue to be great. Be continue to make an impact. You guys are wonderful. And you guys always strive for the best. So that's my interpretation of the elevated advice. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And as always, drop your elevator advice in the comments. Keep the conversation moving. Keep the positivity going on. In a world full of negativity, sometimes it's always great to have the positive mindset and be grateful and all these other positive attributes. Um, and yeah, home team. As always, you can find us on YouTube every Thursday from at 6 p.m. for all my people on the East Coast, 3 p.m. for all my people on the West Coast. Subscribe, hit the bell, and as always, stay locked in with us. Help us get to we're trying to get to 100 subscribers. So home team, share the page, support it, subscribe. Uh it'll be greatly appreciated. And yeah, until next time, I'll see you guys on the flip side. I'll catch y'all.